The Power of Subtlety. In a monastery hidden among clouds and mountains, where bamboo whispered secrets to the wind, lived an old monk named Jinin. His steps were as slow as the passage of time, and his voice so soft it seemed he spoke not with words, but with pauses. He had no disciples. He gave no sermons. He only tended the temple's inner garden, where the stones were arranged with such harmony that even silence paused to admire them. One afternoon, a young man named Haru arrived at the temple, fleeing from the noise inside himself. "I seek wisdom, master," he said, bowing deeply. "I want to learn how to be strong, to withstand the chaos of the world." Jinin looked at him with calm eyes and replied with a single gesture. He extended his hand and pointed to a plum tree leaf falling slowly to the ground. Haru didn't understand. He waited for an explanation, but the old monk had already returned to the garden, gently sweeping with a straw broom. And so his learning began, not with words, but with gestures, breezes, and even subtler movements. The days at the temple brought no surprises. Dawn arrived with the crane's song. The sun painted the rooftops gold, and Jinin swept the leaves with an almost invisible rhythm. First, Haru grew impatient. He expected lessons, challenges, answers, but all he received were simple tasks: carrying water, chopping wood, tending the moss. "Is this all?" he dared to ask one morning. "No techniques, deep meditations, secrets of the spirit?" Jinin looked at him like one gazes upon a stone untouched by rain. Then he pointed to the wooden bowl Haru had just washed and said, "Look how it shines." Haru looked, but saw nothing more than a bowl. He didn't understand why the master insisted so much on the small, on what seemed to hold no power or importance. Yet, he began to notice something. Every gesture Jinin made held unexpected depth. The way he took his tea, walked among the trees, even how he stayed still. It was as if he was speaking with the invisible. Subtlety began to reveal itself, though Haru could not yet name it. One night, the wind blew fiercely through the temple's cracks. Lanterns hanging beneath the eaves swayed, casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls. Haru couldn't sleep. The noise in his mind was louder than the storm outside. He decided to find Jinin, hoping for comfort, or at least some guiding words. He found the old monk sitting by the pond under the rain. He wore no cloak. He was simply there, still, watching raindrops break the water's surface. "Master," Haru whispered hesitantly, "why don't you take shelter? The cold, the rain." Jinin raised a hand and with one finger pointed to the center of the pond. Haru looked. In the midst of the restless water floated a small lotus bud. It neither opened nor struggled. It simply floated, allowing the rain to touch it. "The lotus fears no water," Jinin finally said. "It knows it does not need to resist." Then silence returned. That image lingered in the young man's mind like a soft echo. He began to sense that sometimes true strength isn't about doing, but about allowing. As the weeks passed, Haru changed without even noticing. His movements grew slower, more deliberate. He no longer stirred the water when washing bowls, nor kicked up dust while sweeping the paths. One day, while sweeping the white gravel path, he noticed a butterfly had landed at the tip of his broom. He hesitated to move it, but Jinin, watching from afar, said, "Do it the same, but without disturbing." Haru breathed in deeply. He moved the broom gently, without shaking it. The butterfly stayed put, as if dancing with the motion. In that moment he understood, the power of subtlety is not passivity. It is precision. It is presence. It is doing without force. That teaching came without words or ceremony. It was a whisper of life, offered by the things no one usually notices. And Haru began to see more. how moss spreads without crowding, how bamboo bends without breaking, how fire burns without boasting. All that is essential seemed to happen quietly. One morning, just as the sun barely peeked through the mist, Haru sat quietly by the pond. He had learned to simply be. He expected nothing. He just watched. That's when he noticed something he would have overlooked before. A spiderweb woven between two reeds, suspended like an invisible bridge over the water. At its center, a single dewdrop, small as a sigh. It shimmered in the dawn light, as if holding the entire world within. Jinan approached without a sound, and for a long moment, they both silently watched the scene. Then the master spoke. That drop will soon fall, and the web will remain. This is subtlety. What supports without imposing, what touches without hurting. Haru nodded slowly. He felt something deep settle in his chest, as if he finally understood that true strength doesn't need to show itself. Like the wind that moves leaves without being seen. Like love that cares without noise. Like wisdom that needs no convincing. Subtlety does not seek to dominate. It simply accompanies, and in that accompanying, it transforms. That day, as they walked together through the forest, Jinan stopped before an old moss-covered log. "This tree no longer blooms," he said, resting his palm on the bark, "but it still offers shade, shelter, and silence." Haru watched quietly, noticing how lichens, moisture, and tangled roots carried on without asking for recognition. "And if no one sees it?" the young man asked. "Does it still make sense to keep giving?" Jinan smiled with the tenderness of one who no longer argues with life. "The power of subtlety," he replied, "needs no witnesses. It does what it does because it's in its nature." The wind stirred the tall treetops, and a gentle shower of leaves drifted down around them. None fell with a crash, just a quiet dance touching the earth. Haru closed his eyes. He felt that everything, the moss, the log, the master, the moment, was teaching him without words. It was as if the whole world spoke in a language you only hear when you stop searching for explanations. Subtlety was beginning to dwell within him. One night, while the moon floated among clouds like a silent lantern, Haru sat alone in the temple's entryway. There were no tasks to do, no questions to answer. Only the presence of the moment, like a leaf drifting in the bowl of time. Then he heard the sound of water in the cistern. One drop, then another and another. Nothing else. But each drop seemed to mark the rhythm of a heart that wasn't his, or maybe it was. In the stillness, he understood that this cadence, imperceptible to the outside world, was the very pulse of existence. Subtlety was not the absence of strength. It was strength itself, freed from the need to impose. He recalled the lotus under the rain, the butterfly on the broom, the spiderweb with its drop, the flowerless log, and also the master, who had guided him without directing, transformed him without touching. True teaching, he thought, is neither heard nor memorized. It dissolves into you, like fragrance in the air, like light in water. And that night, without ceremony or farewell, he knew his learning had blossomed. At dawn, Haru prepared tea just as he had seen Jinan do 1,000 times. Every movement was precise, unhurried. He poured the water like one watering sacred ground. He arranged the bowls as if ordering the inner world. When Jinan entered, he said nothing. He sat across from him and accepted the tea with a slight bow. For a long while, they drank in silence. The air was full of life. The creak of wood, the slow rising steam, the sun gilding the edges of the window. Everything happened with quiet intensity. Then the old monk broke the silence with a single phrase. "Subtlety is what endures." In that moment, Haru understood there was nothing more to learn. because the essential was already within him, not as knowledge, but as a way of being. The next day, he left the temple as quietly as he had arrived. But wherever he walked, the stones lay in order. Wherever he spoke, hearts grew calm. Wherever he was silent, peace blossomed. Such is the power of subtlety, unnoticed yet transformative.